please buy patterns from me. I'm really good at math. Hey everyone, welcome to episode 50 of the Hilo Stitch podcast. I'm your host Kristen, and I'm here to talk to you about, what else? Knitting. I will also be talking about all things knitting and yarn related, and maybe not so knitting and yarn related. So if you don't know me already, my name is Kristen Janik. I'm a semi-retired knitting pattern designer, a knitting instructor, and an all-around knitting enthusiast. I am podcasting to you from my home in the Maryland suburbs of Washington, D.C., where we had our first teeny snowfall this morning, where I live with my husband, 2 little boys, JJ, who is 8, Ollie, who is 7, 1 dog, 1 cat, 1 fish. When I'm not knitting, which happens occasionally, you can find me vegetable gardening, baking, reading, sewing, but it is mostly about the knitting, so let's go ahead and start talking about it. I am just going to kick things off with a quick Chatterbox segment today. I usually put this at the end of the podcast, but I'm going to put it at the beginning this time because this is the 50th episode of the podcast, and we recently hit 1,000 subscribers here on YouTube. So I am going to do a pretty content-heavy podcast episode and go over all of the things that I've been doing this year. So all the normal stuff, and catch you up on Finish Fix Frog and my Make 9 and my mystery socks and all of those things all in this podcast. So that's really all I want to say in this Chatterbox part. Thank you so much for your support, for continuing to watch the podcast and all the other content here on May They Better Wanna Knits. Thank you for helping me reach 1,000 subscribers and 50 episodes of the podcast. And let's get started. All right, on and off the needles. I don't think I have anything new on the needles yet. I am about to start doing some of my Christmas gift knitting. I also don't have anything off the needles, but I do have some progress on some projects to show you. So let's see what's first. I've probably made the most progress on my hat. I showed this off in the last episode. I'm not sure at what point I was at, but this is a reversible 2 quote-unquote color brioche hat that I am knitting by alternating between knitting with just a strand of DK weight yarn and holding that double with this alpaca lace weight. So it doesn't look maybe very obvious from, again, this is supposed to be reversible, so I guess we'll call this the outside. It's not really, it's just one side. It doesn't look super obvious from this side. But if you look closely, you can see that the columns of knit stitches, which are being knit without the alpaca, look crisper, where the background looks fluffy because it's being held with the alpaca. And then on the inside, it is the opposite. So the knit columns look fluffier and the background looks crisper because here it's the knit columns that have the lace. And then to top it all off, we have this reversible brim. So on this side, it's just a 1x1 rib. And when you flip it over, it is this snuggly wuggly alpaca layer. So the way I did this, some sewing thread. The way I did this was to first knit the brim, then to go back and pick up the alpaca along along the cast on row, so you can see here, knit it to the same length, and then knit both strands, both sets of stitches together here at this kind of demarcation line. And from there, I have just been doing the brioche. So the idea is that you can either wear it this way with that alpaca layer showing on the outside, or, all right, so now you can see the kind of the fluffy layer on the outside, fold the brim the opposite way. Of course, this needs blocking, so the alpaca layer is kind of poking out, but it will, once blocked correctly, just kind of give you a nice contrast between the plain ribbing and the brioche, wearing it the other way. Again, this could be a design, maybe. My idea, if I could get this finished up, is to make this a special Christmas gift, holiday gift for my newsletter subscribers. So if you want in on that, make sure you are subscribed. The link is in the description box down below, or you just go to mediaperuana.com/newsletter. So I could at this point stop, or not stop, but start the crown decreases. But I still have a fair bit of this to go. So I'm gonna keep going. Hopefully it'll end up a little bit slouchy. If you're familiar with brioche, it really tends to open up when you block it, although with the kind of alpaca, grippy, lacy, fluffy alpaca, it may not stretch quite as much. So this is quite a tangled mess here. This is going, and it is getting most of my attention these days. And then the other project, where might it be? Which bag is it in? Okay. The other project getting most of my attention is this. Definitely not going to be finishing this for National Knitted Sweater Month because today is November 30th, but it is well on its way. So this is the pullover mashup I am doing of Melody Hoffman's tulip pullover and her Offering of Trees pullover. So right along the Offering of Trees element is this really cute thick braid kind of design here along the raglan lines. And now I'm on to the body, which is just plain stockinette, until you hit the hem, which has that scalloped tulip design. So I'm gonna knit a, I don't want to say cropped version, but a version that kind of hits right at the waistband. So I don't have too much longer. The hem is about 4 inches, and I've got about probably 3 inches here. So I probably will go for another 4 inches. So it'll be about 11 inches total from the underarm. And then of course the sleeves. I really like how this yarn is working together. So this is Duram Natura Ulysse in this Merlot, I think it's called, colorway. It's definitely, yeah, Merlot, winey colorway. And then this is Fiber for the People, silk mohair in the Kalamata colorway. So I think they're working together really nicely. It is extra soft and fuzzy, and it's almost looking marled. So I'm really happy with this project. Again, not gonna get it done for National Knit a Sweater Month, but hopefully in the month of December. Oh no, this is no stuff on. Okay. Emergency, hang on a second. I did swatch for a new project. So this is kind of a combination stash flash and on the needles. How did my chair get turned? Okay. So this is yarn I picked out for myself for my birthday from Fiber for the People. This is her Hemp Merino Sport. So as you can see, because this is hemp and merino, the two different fibers are taking the color differently. The colorway is Endor, which it's a little hard to tell here, but it's a very dark green. And then this is her Surrey Silky, so her alpaca silk lace weight in the same color. And you can see it's much more uniform on this base. So this is for a snowy forest pullover. I will go ahead and pop a photo in here so you can see what that looks like. And then let me grab my swatch and give you a peek at that. So, oh, this is so soft. So as you can see, whoops, they are swatching up really nicely together. You're getting a nice marling effect which is really similar to what is in the photo that I just showed you guys. It is this nice, rich, deep green, and the marling is going to combine really nicely with those large cables. Like if you were working with smaller cables, it might be distracting. So I think it's going to work out really well. It is so soft. So I personally find mohair just a little bit prickly. It's not really itchy and I get used to it, but when you first kind of put it on, it seems just a little prickly. Not the case with the alpaca, although it does get in your nose. So there's that. I've not cast this on yet, in part because I had to wait for some needle tips. I need to use a size US 10 for this project. That's what I got gauge on. And what I got gauge on was a fixed needle, and I'm going to need larger needles for especially the yoke of the sweater. So I had to get some more needle tips for that, and partially because I just have so many other projects and I know I should wait. I'm thinking I'm going to make that a kind of celebration cast on if I finish all of my gift knitting this year. So we'll see, but that is in the works and I am loving that yarn so far. Anything else here to show you guys on and off the needles? We looked at that. We looked at that. No, that will go elsewhere. So I think that's it for on and off the needles, but there's plenty more knitting in some upcoming segments, so stay tuned. All right, in Challenge Accepted is where I am talking about some challenges that I set for myself for the year that is rapidly coming to an end, and my progress on them or lack thereof. So let's start with my mystery socks. If you've been watching since the beginning of this year, you know that I guess in January I decided I needed new socks, which I still really do. And I wanted to make it a challenge for the year to knit 6 pair of socks, but also they were going to be mystery socks. So I bagged up 6 sock patterns, 5 sock patterns with appropriate yarn and put them in bags, nondescript bags. And the idea was that every 2 months I was going to pick one and knit those socks. Let me show you how far I've gotten. This is it. I have not even finished one single sock. I am on the heel flap. This challenge did not go well. I like these socks. These are the Plowline socks from Knit Spot, but they require a little bit more concentration than kind of your average sock pattern. And they also require using 2 yarns, which can get, a little tangly and is not as portable. And I think that just kind of got my project off to a less than running start, and it fizzled out from there. I still really need socks. I just tossed a pair in the trash this morning that like the entire foot bed had become threadbare. It was just like the nylon hanging on. But this clearly just has not gone anywhere. I do like these, and I really want to have more socks. What I think I might do is kind of set these aside, even more so than I already have since it's been almost a year, and rather than do a mystery, just look at what I've got and pick a more straightforward, simple pair of socks and start with that. I know there are definitely some, this is probably the most complicated sock pattern that was in there. So I know that there are other patterns in there that maybe will be a little bit more portable and straightforward and easy to follow along with, and maybe that would be a good place to begin my sock knitting journey. It's I really do need new socks. I have gotten rid of so many recently. I seem to have lost one sock because I have a self-striping sock in there that has no match anymore. You know, the dog has pulled the ones I am currently wearing. You can see the dog pulled a giant thread out, and now they're kind of not fitting correctly because it pulled through and made it like the stitches super tight. I definitely need to get back on the socks, but apparently the mystery sock idea isn't working for me, so we're gonna try again. And I know you can't see it, but Dory's trying to jump into my lap. You can see her tail. So that's that challenge. Not great. And my next challenge for the year was my Make 9, which, if you're not familiar with, is you can search the hashtag on Instagram. It's just picking 9 projects to make, you know, during the year. And I have done a bit better there, but still nothing impressive. So I finished my Ursina, and I finished my vintage prim hat, so I will put photos of those in here. And I have my Andawa and my ridgeline tee on the needles. And the cat is still in the way. All right, so the front of my ridgeline tee is done, and you know, here's the back. Just putting, this was supposed to be a summer project. This is or maybe a late summer, early fall project. This is a Brooklyn Tweed Dapple, which is a wool cotton blend. And you know, since the weather has turned and it's not very, there we go. Thank you, cat. That kind of weather anymore, it really hasn't held my attention as much. So there's that. My Andawa, it's, you know, underway. Putting a few rows here and there. There is some flipping back and forth between the charts on this pattern. So a couple of the simpler cables, I just memorized those, that's fine. But kind of what's going on in the middle parts need a little bit more attention. And as I said in a previous episode, the back is identical to the front on this, which is a pretty good indication that I'm not going to do this quickly, because I hate knitting the same thing twice. So they are underway. Neither of these is going to be finished in 2021. And then there are the things I have not started. So one of the projects on my Make 9 was a Daydreamer. I had originally gotten yarn from Fiber for the People for that, and then decided it wasn't working together in the pattern. It was the combination of yarns I had was obscuring the stitch patterns in the sweater. So I also kind of found that I wasn't as enamored of the pattern as I was earlier in the year, so not really sure what I'm going to do there. But since I haven't really started anything, there's nothing to worry about. What else was on my list? The Icy Trails mitts. I would like to get those done by sometime in December for my older son, JJ. We did have our first teensy little snow flurry this morning, but it has been cool here, and we've had some cold days, but overall it's in the 40s, 50s most days, which is not really quite cold enough to require mittens yet. And honestly, he probably won't wear them unless we get an actual snowfall and he's outside playing in the snow, because otherwise he's just not outside that much. You know, it does the drop-off line at school, so it's in and out real fast. He's not standing around outside, maybe at recess. The dog coat, my dog still eats things. She still eats socks. I recently found a couple of hats that I knit that she had chewed holes in. So I am not really all about knitting her a dog coat at this point. That just seems like that's going to be a waste of time, unfortunately. Maybe when she's older and better behaved. You know, she's just a little over a year old, so not much outside of her puppyhood. And in general, she just has kind of the constitution of a goat. Like, she will eat anything, unless it's food that she doesn't, you know, like I'll give her blueberries or apples or, you know, good tasting fruit. She doesn't want that, but she will eat my kids' socks, like literally will swallow them. It's kind of a different tangent. Let's not get into that too much more. So the mittens, the dog coat, I had 2 shawls on there. So one of them is the My Chrysalis shawl by Lavagna Patricella, and I have an itty bitty start on that. As you can see, not a whole lot of progress here, but I have started it. So the yarn I am using for this is Fiber Spates Cumulus with some leaves in it. So this is another Surrey Alpaca Silk blend, and it's kind of a deep kind of purpley gray. It's getting a little blown out here. Yeah, so that's more of that color. And then the other color is I got at Rhinebeck. This is from La Bien-Aimée, and it was an exclusive colorway from, not for Rhinebeck itself, but I guess for India Untangled a few years back. It's called like Autumn at Rhinebeck, but in French, Automne Rhinebeck. And again, it's getting a little bit blown out, but it's just, you know, some quite a variety of colors, a lot of kind of this rusty color coming through. And that is a single ply. So this should be a really soft and airy shawl if it ever gets done. As I said, I did just start it. I'm not even sure why, because I have so much else on the needles, but I felt the demands of my Make 9 calling me, and I decided to go ahead and cast on. So that is started. The other shawl on my Make 9, I believe I picked out colors for, and I stashed them together somewhere. I don't know, maybe my closet. I remember doing it, so I feel like at least I got that step done. All right, so hang on, that was Rosina. Talked about Daydreamer. I finished my hat, mittens, dog coat, 2 shawls. That's 7. What's missing? Oh no, that's it. And then the Andawa and the Ridgeline tee. So only 2 finished objects, several projects underway, a couple that I'm just kind of not really that interested in anymore, so maybe pushing those aside, and then we'll see how the shawl and the plan to do the mittens goes. But that is an update on my Make 9, and I think those are the 2 new knitting challenges that I had for this year. And then there's my Finish Fix Frog project. So Finish Fix Frog, this was my project to finish, fix, or frog all of my existing whips in 2021. So I did quite a bit of frogging at the beginning of the year. I did some fixing, and I actually did a fair bit of finishing. I didn't finish everything, but of the 16 projects I had on my list to finish, I finished 10. So that is not terrible. Most recently, I finished 2 pair of socks, so I'm going to go ahead and throw some pictures in here of those. If you want to hear more about the Finish Fix Frog projects, you can check out the series of Finish Fix Frog vlogs, which I will link to here, which goes into a little bit more detail about that. So out of 16, I finished, out of 16, yes, I finished 10, so that leaves 6. One of those I actually decided to frog. So this was my Camaro pullover, and I had almost finished the yoke, but the more I looked at it, the more I realized I was not going to wear it. The colors are, this is a striped yoke sweater with the stripes being kind of a V shape. And so these are like some of the colors. And I don't dislike these colors, I just don't see myself wearing them. I'm also not really a big stripes person. So I went ahead and frogged that. So there are some individual colors in here that I really like, and I'm hoping to reuse on some things. There are also some, these kind of more, where's the other one? Muted blues that I think might be nice for something for one of my boys. But ultimately, it was kind of a tough decision because I actually had made quite a bit of progress. I was almost done the yoke, which is the biggest element of the sweater, but I just wasn't going to wear it, and it didn't seem worth it to finish it, to have it sit in the closet somewhere. So I went ahead and frogged that. So that's one. That leaves me with 5. One of those is a pair of socks for my husband. I finished one earlier this year, and I haven't even looked at the second one. I'll get there someday. All right, so that's 4. It's 4 left. One of those is my Descent pullover. Definitely going to keep up with that one. It has not, I really had just barely started it. So I've got maybe like, I don't know, a couple of inches of the yoke. So we'll keep that up there. There's a Timberline cardigan, which, what are you doing here? You don't go there. I was really torn on what to do with this one because it's such a really big, oversized, cabled cardigan that, again, kind of like the Andawa, it just requires a lot of attention. You've got different charts that you need to keep track of, that are in different places all across the entire sweater. So as you can see, I haven't made much progress. I did kind of pull it out the other day thinking I would try to get it back on track. Then I realized that the needles weren't in it, nor do I exactly remember. I think I just used the size needles in the pattern because this is actually a men's cardigan. So I decided I was going to make the smallest men's size and not fixate too much on the gauge because it was going to be oversized anyway. So I'm pretty sure I just used the pattern needles, but they're not in here. I have long since taken them to use them on something else, so I didn't. I am still interested in having this. It's just going to be a long-term project. I really love the yarn for this, which you can see is like a pale blue, but just little bits of like kind of a purple in there. So this is Wool of the Andes, and the colorway is called Opal Heather. I think that's actually pretty perfect. Opals have that kind of iridescence that little bits of purple kind of shine through. So that's still there and still planning to knit that. All right, so what was that? Husband socks, frogged Camaro, Timberline, Descent, 2 more. There's the Vivid Blanket, which is a, what's it called? I guess a modular blanket. It has the squares that you knit together they're seamed together at the end. I haven't done anything with it. It's, I really like it. I like the colors that I have for it. I picked these autumny colors. It's just one of those things where it's knit on a US 8, which is fine, but it starts from a pinhole cast on, and until it gets big enough, I've got it on DPNs, which is just, I don't like DPNs, and they're all over the place. I guess I could try doing it on Magic Loop. But I mean, that's a modular square project, so it's, I'm happy to just pick it up when I feel like making a square, and it just hasn't been my thing. lately. And then the last one is a kind of camisole project that I think I'm just gonna frog. I've been working on it for years and it just is not holding my attention enough to finish it. So if it's been that long, and it's mostly stockinette, I mean, it's, you know, and even with a mostly stockinette, it's still not, you know, holding my attention or interest long enough to finish it. I think that says quite a bit. I think I am working on it in a wool cotton blend that there's nothing wrong with, but I have found that here, even in the summer, which is a time I might be wearing a camisole tank top, it's too hot to be wearing any amount of wool. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and frog that. So I give myself maybe a B- on the Finish Fix frog. I made a lot of progress. I got a lot of stuff out of my baskets, and it was very rewarding to get some things off the needles. I'm a little disappointed that I didn't do a little bit better with finishing up some of those whip sweaters, but you know, new things catch your eye and you end up starting new projects and things fall to the wayside. But I think I'll keep it going in 2022. So maybe in January, reevaluate, see what is now a whip that I need to work on in the coming year. And that is how all of my personal knitting challenges stand for 2021. All right, Stash Flash, I just have a couple of things to show you. I am planning to do some Christmas gift knitting, and obviously I couldn't possibly knit from stash. I had to get new yarn. So the first thing that is on my list is knitting a Lunita hat for my sister. This is a pattern of mine. I'll throw a photo in here. I wore this when we went pumpkin picking and she really liked it and asked for one. There's you again. I'm still not talking to you. Anyway, she really liked it. She asked for one, said she wanted to have it in neutral colors. And I decided I really wanted to use the original yarn. It's a wonderful yarn from Julie Aslan, don't know, called Nurtured. And so I got 2 balls of that in this, kind of from here just looks like a gray. And you get closer up and there's a little bit more color in there. I don't remember what this colorway is called. I will look it up and put it on the screen right here. I want to say it starts with a C. I could be making that up. So I ordered, it actually Cat requires, because it's very cabley, just a little bit more than 1 ball. So 2 balls of those. I really love this yarn. I also use this for the Diego cardigan pattern, and it's just a great, warm, rustic, but not itchy yarn. So love that. I also got a pom-pom to go with it. It's an alpaca pom-pom. So that is for her hat. And then the other thing I'm knitting a few things, but the other thing that I bought yarn for is that I wanted to knit a version of this for my dad. So this is the 2-color, reversible, mostly 2-color brioche, a little bit of half fisherman's rib shawl that I made myself. And I want to make something like this for my dad. You know, just big enough to wrap around and really keep warm. So this is an okay size for me. I think this would be a little bit small for him. So I had originally thought about using the same yarn, but this uses 3 skeins, 2 of the tones and 1 of the shelter from Brooklyn Tweed, and each of those is 140 yards. So if I wanted to make it bigger for him, I'd have to get multiple of them, and I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to make it so big that I needed a full 2 of each color. more like 1.5. So I didn't want to buy 2 and then have all these leftovers. So I decided to grab a yarn I have not looked at before or used before from Knit Picks. So this is their High Desert, and this is a worsted weight with 217 yards. So that, you know, instead of being a total of, what was it, 140 times 3, 440. I'm really good at math. 3, 4, 20. Please buy patterns from me. I'm really good at math. Anyway, so this is going to give me more yardage for each color, about 100 extra yards of each color. This is 100% US grown Shaniko wool. I have no idea what that is, but this is sort of their domestic breed specific yarn. So for my dad's, I got these 3 colors. That blue is looking a little brighter here than it is in real life. It's a pretty muted blue. And we've got a dark gray and a black. I'm not sure how I'm going to use them yet. You know, like for this, it's the dark purple and the pink together for most of it, and then mixing each color with the third color for a little bit. So I haven't decided the combination that I'm going to go with yet. And obviously I'm not cast on, but I did get the yarn. So I think this is going to be a nice kind of manly color combination. Still a little bit colorful, but nothing crazy. It's going to make him a nice squishy shawl to keep warm over the winter. So last year he got socks. Everyone has asked for something this year. My husband wants fingerless mitts. My sister wants the hat. My dad didn't ask for this. This is what I'm making for him. So everything, now I have the yarn to start all of my gift knitting. I'm sure I will knit things for my kids too, but you know, I'm not going to give my children hand knits for Christmas because that's just setting them up to be disappointed and then for me to get my feelings hurt. They are children, they do not want hand knit gifts for Christmas, but they will get some hand knits. They need new hats since the dog has chewed holes in several, so that at least will be happening. That is all the new yarn that I have to show you. I actually did a little bit of Small Business Saturday shopping and ordered some yarns from Old Rusted Chair and Lola Bean Yarn Company, and when I have those, probably not until late December, but we shall see. When I have those, I will certainly share them with you. And that is all the stash flash I have for this episode. All right, I wanted to save the sewing toward later in the episode. And of course, if you're not interested in sewing, feel free to skip it. I have been doing some sewing. I finished this shirt. I have not worn this shirt yet, but I have finished it. This is the first time I have really dealt with sleeves. So I have made myself a couple of sleeveless tops and a couple of sleeveless dresses, but this is my first time with sleeves. All right, so this pattern is from Seamwork. It is called Mina, and it is actually a pattern for a shirt as well as an empire waist dress. So I'm definitely gonna make the dress in the spring, but I made the shirt now. I love this fabric. Very sort of fallish, fall colors. So as you can see, just a long sleeve, well, 3/4 length sleeve shirt with this peplum and this sort of folded over detail at the waist. And then the sleeves are set-in sleeves. So in knitting, we know that setting in sleeves is a pain in the ass, and we have invented the seamless set-in sleeve, which I love. And I will never sew a sleeve in a sweater again. But knitting is the process of creating the fabric and the garment at the same time. Sewing, the fabric already exists, so you're just creating the garment. So you can't really create a seamless set-in sleeve so much. Had to set it in the old-fashioned way, and it went okay. I actually had no problems with it. I didn't see any puckers or anything anywhere. Although now that I am looking at it, I do see a teensy pucker on this top of this, where's the back? Yeah, the top of this shoulder right here, which probably, if I pressed it. So I have, since finishing this, have washed it. I have not pressed it again. It definitely needs it before I wear it, whenever that might be. This was also my first time doing bias tape, which is sort of a folded over strip of fabric, and the fabric has been cut on the bias, meaning diagonally, so it's very stretchy. And so first I tried to make bias tape, and that was a disaster. Maybe when I'm better at sewing. Then I tried to order bias tape, and I got lost in the mail. Then I tried to reorder bias tape, and what I actually got was twill tape, which is similar in kind of size, but is not stretchy. So then finally I just went to Joann's and just bought the bias tape and actually bought extra, more than I'll ever need probably, so that I could finally finish this and another project, which I will show you in a minute. The bias tape does not look great, but of course it's on the inside, so it should be fine. I did get, again, a little pucker on the back here from trying to sew the bias tape. But between not, being kind of on the back of the shoulder and in this kind of very busy fabric, it is not super visible, and I am definitely not going to redo it. I cut the fabric for the pants for my kids yesterday. I had trouble with my oldest getting the pieces cut out. Apparently I didn't really fold the fabric right the first time, so I'll explain when I actually show you the pants, when I actually sew them. That is the other project that I am working on. I don't plan to sew any projects for gifts for Christmas. I don't think I'm quite there yet. I am still enjoying the new hobby, and will continue and keep it up. Hey guys, my original file for the wrapping up segment got corrupted. This is 100% because I use my camera to record the podcast and it's full. So let's try this again. Thank you so much for joining me for episode 50 of the Hilo Stitch podcast. Extra special thank you for helping me to reach 1,000 followers here on YouTube. Links to everything that I have talked about can be found in the show notes at mediaperuana.com/hiloandstitch. A special thank you to my Patreon patrons who help keep this podcast and the Media Peruana Knits channel up and running. If you would like to support the channel and also get some behind the scenes sneak peeks and perks and freebies, you can find more information at patreon.com/mediaperuana. Very quickly, speaking of this channel, I also have a couple of new videos on here that are not part of the podcast. So I have a new tutorial on Kitchener Stitch, which I will link right here. I also have a new kind of vlog, not really a tutorial, on the 5 knitting rules that I always break, that I hope you will check out. If you were ever feeling guilty about breaking the knitting rules, you can hear about the ones that I break all the time. Here on YouTube, if you enjoyed this episode of the podcast or any of the other content, if you could subscribe, like, leave a comment, share with your friends. All of that is very helpful in expanding the reach of the channel. If you are looking for me on social media, you can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Media Peruana, and I will see you next time. It would also be easier to find out if the cat would get off my lap. Can I help you in some way? She gets confused. She thinks I'm talking, since she can't see anybody that I'm talking to, she assumes I'm talking to her. I'm not talking to you. She doesn't like being held. There she is.